Hello and welcome to Quality 7 Sprint Review for 19.08.01. This will cover the work undertaken between the 23rd of July to the 5th of August. Our sprint goal for this sprint has been to implement the background service required to extract reporting statistics from MailChimp, also to complete the work needed to create diary entries on behalf of another user. Looking at the high-level items and to explain further, in this sprint, we've been able to continue working on implementing a background service which will extract the reporting statistics held against a MailChimp account. This will carry over into the next sprint as we have to refine the functionality, but I'll hope to have something I can demonstrate in the next sprint. We've updated the diary forms so that users can create diary entries for other users. This is on the basis of user group permissions, and I'll give a demo on this shortly. The back office area has been worked on further with updates to the new list invoices section, as well as an option to undo invoices that have been generated. We've added a new back office row to the admin area, and have added a new nominal lookups section to cover the default settings of nominal codes in the event of certain users owning companies and departments generating invoices. We've updated the Spec CV workflow when sending to an individual contact so that you can add additional contacts to this workflow rather than one contact at a time. We've updated the calculation behind the duration of weeks so that this is more consistent with the way it worked in version 6. We've added the current stage filter to the candidates tab on a requirement, and we've added the current stage filter on the requirements tab of the candidate, company and contact. We'll now go for a brief demonstration on the key features from this sprint. Okay, so the key component that was delivered as part of this sprint was in relation to the diary, and that's the means to be able to create a diary entry for another user. So we introduced a little while ago the option to be able to view other users' diaries if enabled via user permissions and settings. So that's an option here that can be introduced, and on the basis of you selecting the user, you can then view that person's diary. So as an example, we'll select that user there, and then we can view that person's diary, and obviously others can be selected as well in relation to their diary entries as well, and obviously it defaults to yourself. But the key update that's been made as part of this sprint is now when creating a diary entry, you'll have a user drop-down option that's been added, and that user drop-down option will contain a list of users based on your user group permissions as to whether or not you can create diary entries for them, but it will obviously contain the options there for you to create diary entries for those people. So if I just go through how this works from a user group permission level, and then we'll go through the workflow. So within the admin area, under user group permissions, go into that user group permission there, you'll see listed here, you've got an option for view user diaries within Teams, view all user diaries, create diaries against another user within team, and create diaries against any user. So just to go through what these each mean, if you're in a situation where you want just a group of individuals, a team within the company, to be able to view each other's diaries and create diary entries against each other's diaries, then there is an ability to limit access to diaries to be specific in relation to a team. So you would use that setting. If you wanted to just grant access to all user diaries, then you've obviously got a view all user diary option that's there. If you wanted to have it so that you can view the entries but you can't create them, then obviously you can set this to no access, but obviously this grants the ability to create diary entries against another user within your team, and then likewise you've also got create diaries against any user within the team, so that's full access. And you've got the option of either no access or full access on these points. In terms of what's defined by a team, that's obviously on the basis of the team hierarchies that you've set up. So if your user is within a team in this structure, then you'll have access to the associated users within that team. And that's how it determines what users you have access to. But otherwise, you can obviously set it to have access to all users. An extra element to it as well, just to go down to a granular detail, is that you do have the means at a user level to define whether or not you're sharing out your diaries and tasks. So if you have a flat structure, you don't have a team structure, you just have a list of all users in the system under one root team, but you want to ensure, perhaps as a director, that you want to ensure that people don't have access to your diary. You've got a means for a single user to be able to be set so that you're not sharing the diary. And if so, that will kind of act as an override over any of the other settings we've gone through. But on the assumption that will be set to yes by default, by the way, but on assumption that you've set that's been set against the user, you've got user group permissions as access, you're going to see this setup here where you've got the ability to be able to view other users' diaries and the ability to be able to create diary entries on behalf of those other users. And if I just demonstrate this by selecting another user, if I say we'll say test subject, we'll do it for the 9th of August, 12 o'clock till 1, a type of telephone, or better still, meeting. So that this will create this diary entry against this user. So if we hit save, obviously that's not gone into my diary, that's gone into this user's diary entry, and that's on the 9th. So you got that meeting there, test subject. So that's the key update that's been made in relation to the diary in this sprint. The next point to cover is just the additional stage filters that have been added now to the requirements tabs of the candidate, company and contact, and also the candidate tab or candidates tab of the requirement. So within a candidate record of the requirements tab, what you now have is a current stage filter. And this will allow you to be able to, obviously you have access here to all of the requirements that have been associated with this candidate, but now you can see in terms of current stage, I have a quick way of filtering to perhaps see maybe only the requirements where this candidate has reached or is reached a current stage of interview against that requirement, perhaps current stage of sent, just as a way of filtering on that list. Against the company, it's the same thing. If we go to the requirements tab, we've got that same option of being able to view long listed, placed perhaps in any outstanding interviews against the company, and it's the same for the contact as well. On the requirements against the candidates tab, you've got that same option here for stage, and this just allows you to view again these candidates but at their various different stages. So if you have a vast list of candidates and you just want to shortlist it or filter it so that you're only viewing perhaps people that are at a certain stage, then obviously you can do that now with this filter. And that's the key updates that have been made in relation to stage filtering throughout the candidate, company, contact and requirement. Another point to cover on this sprint is just a minor update that was made to the Spec CV workflow. So when on a candidate record off the submit option here, you've got Spec CV send to contact. What we've done is we've incorporated the ability to make this multiple contacts. So when you run this workflow now, it will work as it did before, in which it will expect you to obviously look up a contact, select that, and it will generate the email form to that contact. But if you wanted to send to multiple contacts, so if, for example, you wanted to, if you had multiple contacts in mind in which you wanted to do this Spec CV for, you could, off the to option, hit select contacts, and here you could enter in someone else, basically another contact, and you could do obviously multiple contacts, as many contacts as you like there. From here, if we then select a template, Spec CV there, just as a test, and then if I send that, what you'll then see, obviously the emails are queued and are processed, but what you'll see in Spec CV sent is that there's been an entry created for both those contacts against this candidate. So essentially you're able to run that one workflow, reference those multiple contacts in that one workflow, and obviously create individual entries per contact that you've added. You obviously also have the multiple contact option there, which is running from a search result, or allowing you to use the search to build up multiple lists of contacts. But if you have the contacts in mind, essentially that's the update that we've made there to make that more user friendly for you. And that's the update we made there. The next point to cover is the additional element that's been added to the admin area for back office, and that's nominal lookups. So nominal lookups is a section where you are essentially assigning default nominal codes in relation to either departments or owning companies or users. So what you'll have is an ability to be able to select to create a new nominal lookup. Within here, you would specify the department, or you've got an option for the department, or you've got an option for users. There'll be a list of all active users here, or you've got owning company, and essentially what you can stipulate for the purposes when it's generating the invoice is that if a record has this default department, then the nominal code should be this nominal code, and you can save that, and obviously then it's then assigned. So it's a stipulation of default nominal in the event of when you're generating the invoices from those records, what it should stamp those invoices have as in terms of their nominal code and department codes. So that's the update that's been made, again, all geared around the back office area. The last point to cover was just an update on where we are with the back office area. So as part of the last sprint, we went through the generate invoices segment, which is essentially an area which will list all of the timesheets, charges, permanent placements. They're all at second level authorized placement level that are basically ready to be invoiced. And then from here, you have the means to be able to select those records, or select which records you want, hit generate invoices. From there, you've got an option to specify the invoice dates. You specify the default nominal, and also whether or not you're creating any expense invoices. We hit OK there. What we now have is an option to just give you the ability to view those invoices now. So would you like to view those invoices? We hit yes there, and we're taken through into the list invoices area. And then within this area, obviously you can see the invoices that have been raised. If I just go back to the main menu, essentially what we're talking about is just this list invoices area. So this is all of the permanent placements, charges and timesheets that are outstanding. This is all of the invoices that have been raised off the back of them. We're listing all of the invoices here. What we've also included as well now is an option to undo invoices. So if you were to either select all, or perhaps select a couple of those and hit undo invoices, what that will do is essentially remove those invoices from this list invoice list there, and essentially put those records back in the pool of records that need to have invoices generated against them. So we've got obviously an area where we can generate invoices, an area where we can list those invoices that have been generated. What we're now moving on to is printing invoices. So that's obviously the creation of the invoice template, the invoice document, so that the detail of the invoice record can obviously be printed into a document which is then obviously sent on to the client. So that's where we're at now with regards to the back office area. As always, if you have any queries or feedback, please get in touch. I'll be keen to hear from you. Also, for those using Colleague 7, feel free to submit your enhancement requests via the support team or directly to me using the above email address. The next video will be the sprint plan for 19.08.02, and as always, that will contain a high-level overview on the items we intend to work on during that sprint. Thanks for watching.